Hello everybody and welcome. The Kings of the Court have arrived. The first of two games this evening. Newcastle versus Manly, first versus fourth. My name is Keane Kramer. Alongside me is Dom Finlay, a man that knows just a little something about basketball. Dom, welcome to the call. You'll be taking away the second game as well, co-commentator duties. Dom, what a special evening. This is going to be absolutely sensational.
Mate, we're in the brand new extension that is the Hills Hornets Hive. Mate, there's a lot of history here on these courts, in the courts 1 and 4. The excitement is absolutely palpable. The level of basketball that's been played in the last year in this competition has been amazing. The imports, the local Australian lads, the aspiring NBL youngsters, and some of the guys who have been lucky enough to have some years playing at that level, and they've all sort of transitioned across to what, luckily for everyone watching, is a 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3 battle tonight, which is always nice to see the cream rise to the top comes finals weekend. So very exciting for Hills, being the first time they've been given the opportunity to host the Waratah League finals, and well, thoroughly deserved considering the work that's gone in.
Yeah, what a facility it is. We were mentioning it earlier, just the whole day's been special. The weekend will be even better. But let's talk about these two teams. Newcastle came first, only 3 losses to their name. Manly just slipped in. They played Comets last week. They got up. That was a special victory for themselves as well, and they lost 7 games. So in terms of what we can expect, you would think, judging by stats, that it could be a whitewash, but anything goes in finals, as you know.
I think we're either going to have a triple overtime game or we're going to have somewhere between a 15 to 20 point differential. And I am not a betting man, but if I was, only based on the size of the win-loss differential, you'd say that Newcastle. But look, Manly knocked them off in one of the early rounds up at Newcastle by 2 points. In saying that, Manly did have a close to 20-point lead with a quarter to go, and Newcastle were able to come up and just lose that game by 2 points. On the returning game, you had Manly and Newcastle face off back over at Manly, and they actually got the game by 90 points to 60. That's Newcastle. So I think at that stage, Newcastle was still trying to find their feet with regards to some of the roster changes. But you'd say man for man, Newcastle should have this game. But given the winning culture that the Sea Eagles have had over the last decade and a little bit, don't be surprised if you see them come over the top. I know that's the absolute fence-sitting commentary prediction, but that's just the nature of this game tonight, I think.
So let's go through the lineups quickly for Newcastle. Dom, you can take that away. You can take off both lineups for us.
Yeah, look, you've got Josh Morgan here. Josh has been a stalwart defensive player for this team for a very long time. You've got young Foy, who of course won Youth Player of the Year this year. Mr. Thornton has really been a surprise packet. He's one of the most impressive imports we've seen in probably the best part of the last decade. Sharif Watson, I'm just seeing him walk out onto the court now. Long, athletic. His stats have been equally impressive this year. You know, he's gone 17, 11 and 3 this year at 46% clip, which is, you'd take that any day of the week from any player that's coming over and playing. And Mr. Howe there running in. Look, he's always been a very impressive player. Just another solid defensive player that kind of Newcastle have based their basketball around. In the other starters, you got Steph Blazinski. Well, he's another well and truly known veteran of the league. Luke Cooper, in my opinion, probably the best point guard in the competition. Young Bolgen, high percentage shooter. Kyle Painter and Stephen White. We've just had the tip off there.
And we're underway here at the Hills, the Hive, so to speak. And Josh Morgan will start us off. Quick early play. They went for the alley-oop. Sharif couldn't pull it off, but they've done that all throughout the season. Great option there for Sharif Watson, and early stages.
Wow. If that's an insight to what we're going to have, wow.
It's going to be something special. As Luke Cooper now with the basketball.
Another backdoor cut. That's back-to-back backdoor plays for both teams. So interesting. They might have had a bit of a look into the way both teams are overplaying that front door option. So let's keep an eye on that, Keegan, as we go through the game.
Well, what about the vision early by both these sides? Creativity is definitely their fortes. There's a nice take by Morgan. We'll go all the way. Blocked by Bolgen. Spectacular start, and here they go on the fast break. Right. Stevie White underneath, great defence. Jacob Foy played earlier in the Youth League competition, fouled early, but the talent on show today.
Oh, wow,
I mean,
speed.
We only have to talk about Austin Thornton, who we mentioned MVP of this competition. He's one of the best imports we've ever seen in this top league. Played with Draymond Green at Michigan State, runner-up in the 2009 NCAA Championships. Been 6 years since he competed for a championship, so that's a bit of a milestone for himself. This will be the weekend where hopefully things will change. That's what he would want, and the list goes on and on. Played in front of President Obama, so today's playing in front of us, which is probably slightly better.
Well, he'll write it on his resume, I'm sure he will.
That's right.
I always find it interesting. That's a nice move on the inside. Oh, he kicks it out. Let's have a look. This goes down. Mr. Foy. Oh, he is just solid. It's exciting times. Where'd you say he's heading off to college?
He's going to college. So a few weeks ago, I actually spoke to him. He said he's had a few offers. He won't like to say it yet.
Oh, okay.
But Luke Cooper with a little silky smooth touch, isn't he? And
you look at Luke Cooper and you almost say there's a guaranteed double-double with points and assists every time he steps on the floor.
Which is great. Well, of course, he did play for the Kings.
He did.
Back when they got back in the comp, so... It was between him and James McCann, if I remember correctly, for that point guard spot. He ended up getting it, and you'll see James McCann playing the game afterwards, which should be another blockbuster.
Both stellar point guards in their own right. Jimmy McCann probably a little bit more known for his defensive output. Luke Cooper, just someone you'd love to have on a court, leading your team out on the floor.
It's special. As Thornton on Bolgin. Big play, great deflection. So early on, we've seen a minute and a half of action, and defensively, they've been very sound, Manly.
Well, look at Stevie White matching up here. This is interesting. They've gone undersized defensively to try and ensure that Thornton can't get that mid-range shot off. And at this stage, it looks like it's a good idea. In saying that, there's a look he's been looking for. Great closeout by Stevie, and now he's going to probably lead the break
Cooper
for a lane. And there you go.
It's beautiful to watch, isn't it, when you see Luke Cooper on a transition offensive play.
Wow.
It's good to see, and that's sort of hard to stop, isn't it? And they're looking for that play early.
And look at this, good coaching here by Nate Kerwin. Yeah, that is a really interesting coaching decision here. Newcastle are the ones who are actually going to have to make the change, because that's not a healthy matchup for Newcastle. Stevie Whitehead, faster feet, capable of staying with Thornton there in that mid-block. So I think there's going to have to be a change here, whether they set an early screen down the court to ensure there's a switch there, or it'd be interesting to see how that play unfolds, because I don't think Newcastle can compete without Thornton scoring his mid-20s, to be perfectly honest. Bolgin for three.
And they somewhat expect that as Bolgin seals the deal off. Two great defensive plays. Manly well into it. 9 points to 3. They couldn't have asked for a better start.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And here comes Watson now. Will go strong into Stevie Blaze. Goes up hard. And again, you get him in a one-on-one isolation play. And it's sorry, see you later at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's an opposite situation there. I would say that Steph is probably going to be outgunned there for foot speed. So I like the fact that Newcastle have gone a little ISO there on Sharif to give him a bit of an opportunity to, in that instance, accrue a foul. But look, any other day you'd probably expect that to be an easy field goal. But nice action from the free throw line. I'd love to, not that I had the opportunity through the season, love to know the backstory about how some of these imports find their way playing New South Wales Waratah League.
Well, that's right. So with Austin, he was saying that he had a friend that played here who he played with. I think he got injured in Europe, and the friend said, why don't you go over play in Newcastle? I've played there. It's a great place to play, and by all reports, he's very happy living in the city of Newcastle. As Cooper puts it up, great hustle by both teams underneath it. Goes the young kid in Howe, who played in the Youth League game earlier on. He was unbelievable. And on that note, he'll sing it from the top of the arc. What a start.
He's just solid. You know, that form, if you're out there guarding a guy that snaps his wrist that confidently, Stevie White.
You know you've done a good job. In the early stages, both teams are looking to push it early, which is what you want with certain teams in this division.
Yeah, there's a sense of feeling each other out still a little bit with that push of trans. You'd suggest that as the game goes on, both teams will defensively react a little more to that, but geez, there's a lot of opportunities for both teams at the O board. You know, I'm really surprised that boxing out doesn't seem to... Interesting no call by Richie By on the baseline there. That's all right. I like the way Rich refs actually sort of very much let the game go as it unfolds, and he's by far one of my preferred referees in the... And look, I have to admit, the games that I've watched this year, the refereeing has definitely improved. There seems to be a lot more of allowing the game to unfold rather than pulling it up. That's one thing this year that I think has been a notable improvement.
which is great.
Credit to the refs, yeah.
Because that's what we want. At the end of the day, we want fast-flowing games. They've done a great job, as you did mention. As Abe Bolgen takes it hard. Last week he was something else.
Move, man. That's a tough move. Super athlete.
Fade away to the side, and last week he shot the lights out. He was actually the MVP of that game. If I had to put 3 votes to anyone, it would have been him. Off the bench.
That was a do or die game, right?
It was against the Comets, and they ended up winning that game. But let me tell you, they're up by 20. Comets got right back into it. As Stevie Blaze from the corner. Can't make the 3-point land, but off they go. The Hunters. Thanks to Hal. And the movement's on. Here comes Watson on the trail, can't hit the shot. But it's options like that you'd be pretty happy with as
you'd have absolutely no problem with that. An uncontested 3 from someone who's shown that he can dabble in that area of the court. You actually don't mind an early inside 8 seconds. Andre Lamanis, the Boomers coach, has had a flow offense, and that's sort of the structural play that the Australian basketball is following at the moment, which is split the shot clock into 3 parts. Option in the first sector, option in the second sector, option in the third. With many of those, is there an understanding of an early shot, mid shot. So it's an interesting philosophy that seems to be working its way down through the levels of basketball in this state at least.
And that's what you want. You want someone leading by example. That's what Lamanis does.
He sure does.
I noticed on the sideline, Tyler Munro's here. He got the call up for Maitland once again after his season last year, because I think he was averaging 30 and 20 or something ridiculous like that. So he's supporting his Newcastle boys, I guess. Local neighbours, why not? Support the team.
Absolutely.
And that's great. That's great to see. Everyone's piling in. 2 big games ahead of us in the Championship Men's Division. Coming up is Norths versus Hills, and we expect to see a jam-packed crowd.
It'll be packed. I actually was lucky enough to be here for the first game, which ironically was Norths versus Hills, and they were out the door for that. I mean, that was absolutely jam-packed. So it's exciting times for this entire region of basketball in this state, actually.
Big play. Look at that IQ by Luke Cooper. I mean, off a screen, he's patient. He works around it. Couldn't hit the shot, but again, well,
you know what?
As a
coach, I can tell you right now, Luke Cooper shoots a high enough percentage that you don't mind him shooting that, and sometimes it can be nearly as good as an assist, because if he notes that his teammates have got inside position, he's basically throwing the ball off the ring to them. So, interesting call there. You know what? Steph will get something from that. Even though it was a travel call, the ball went through the ring, and Steph's one of these guys who's been around for 1,000 years. That'll be a sense of confidence for him, even though the basket didn't count.
That's right. As long as you get a sense of the game. It's early stages. As we said, 5 minutes gone, 5 more to go. 11-10. Manly lead the Hunters. As Hal will do it all himself. Finds Thornton. Dribbles in. Here comes Bolgen. Coast to coast. Ooh. Will he finish? Yes, he will.
He's tough. He's MVP of the first quarter for mine. He's really making a difference out on the floor. It's a combination of blue collar and white collar work out there for him.
Yeah, he's been strong. And Manly's well up for this game. They may have come fourth, but as you said, you're expecting triple OT, which would just be unbelievable.
That's a great pass.
We definitely get our money's worth for that.
Jacob again.
Foy launches it, not to be. In comes Cooper.
Again, you know what? You don't want to get an import with that quality, that easy look. You know, he hasn't had it easy at the start of this game, and that sort of thing. Oh, Sharif, great finish. Lukey Cooper's in trouble here. He's got the whack in the face by the ball, by an errant arm, admittedly. But interesting to see what happens here. We're looking at our first substitution for the game.
And I believe it's Pitter coming on.
It is.
And last week as well, I think he hit 5 or 6 3-pointers. So it was him and Bolgen that single-handedly won them the game last weekend. So they need some big plays, Manly, and they'll be pretty content. Look, they may be down, but it's fair to say that they've been arguably the better side.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's a really good call. Look, if the game was to finish now, we've interestingly enough got Newcastle winning the game. But you know, that's why it's a 40-minute game. You know, this is why basketball is such an interesting game, especially for the purists. You can only take a little bit out of it for that first quarter. It really is about trying to wear down your competition to see what they've got left in the tank coming the fourth.
That's exactly why we love this sport. Basketball, it's never over until the last minute or so, especially in finals basketball, because it doesn't matter where you've been placed, because at the end of the day, regular season's regular season. Finals basketball's a different ball game. Thornton takes it hard. Here comes Howell. Attack it hard.
Tough.
That's a great move, isn't it?
All right, so what we've got there is we've got an early double down from when Stevie White obviously forces back to the middle of the basket. I think Stevie can actually control on a 1-1 situation Thornton. I don't know whether or not that was a drawn-up defensive situation where they're forced to double, but you saw what happened as soon as they double down, Howe drops a 3. So I don't necessarily think Nate Curran has to be jumping on eggshells with regards to throwing a double team there. Maybe wait until Stevie runs out of gas. Steph.
Then you can do some early rotations.
Exactly right.
Which they have done with Pitcher coming on.
Yep.
Fresh legs. If you see him put the ball on the floor, he's dangerous.
Well, mate, Dan Pitcher's in really good nick too. That's probably as good as I've seen Dan look. He seems to have slimmed down from a few years ago when I saw him, and I've always loved the way he plays. Kind of playing behind Luke Cooper as a club guy as an enormous advantage as well. Luke Cooper being probably one of the most outstanding point guards this league has ever seen. To be able to have someone to follow like that through a club, massive advantage.
Huge. 3 minutes to play. We haven't had a timeout yet, which is really
We haven't
impressive.
had a timeout, and I've been really interested to see that the coaches, generally speaking, haven't made a lot of rotations.
But as a coach yourself, I mean, is that something you look to do early, or you look to play players out as long as possible?
You'd love to not have to make any substitutions, and I don't mean that necessarily from a political standpoint, but you're making a substitution for a reason. Whether it be fatigue issue, a matchup issue, I don't necessarily. I was always a spontaneous coach. I always substituted based on the circumstances of the game. I know there are some coaches who actually draw up substitutions pre-game and try and abide by it. There's no right or wrong. Absolutely no right or wrong. It's just whatever suits. That's what I'm talking about. So that's come from that steal that he got under the basket in the lane. The ring starts to expand by inches every time you get an open, uncontested look.
That's exactly right. First time out of the game, 21-13, Newcastle lead Manly. We'll go over for a sponsorship update.
Yeah, thanks, Keen, mate. Basketball New South Wales would like to thank their official partners, New South Wales Office of Sport, Spalding Carney Sports Marketing, the PCYC, Custom College Recruitment, Cedar College New South Wales, the highly touted this year Sydney Kings, the Sydney Uni Flames, and the great people there at Allied Couriers.
Thanks for that, Dom. The man, the myth, the legend. He's been involved with Hills for quite some time, so it's a sweet moment, isn't it, for yourself, being here for this particular game, but of course the whole weekend.
Oh, it really is. You know, the club has just been on a linear progression. You know, since its inception. 1995 actually saw the construction of the building next door to us, which in its own right was a lovely facility and served its purpose. But now we've come into an area where I would comfortably say, if it isn't the best, it's right up there in the top 3 or 4 facilities in New South Wales. Every single time anyone who hasn't been to the stadium walks in here, you know, possum eyes come out and you're so blown away by just how professional it looks, which, you know, if every year, you know, 1 or 2 of the clubs can continue to build these sort of facilities, it's only going to bode well for the future of basketball in this state and this country, really.
Well, if you looked at what the show court used to be like to what it is now, it's a step up, that's for sure. As we're back underway, 2.5 minutes to go, 21-13, Newcastle lead Manly, but it hasn't come easy for them. Manly's well up for this game. Defensively, they've been very sound. And now they're looking to put some more points on the board, thanks to Cooper. Here comes Pitcher. Step back, Jay.
Look, unlucky. Oh, great rebound. Bulgent is just playing a wonderful game. He's missed that shot, but it just goes to show you how hard he's hitting those boards. Look, interesting one here, King. We haven't had a substitution by the Hunters yet. We've gone 10 minutes of basketball live, which you'd probably say is the best part of 18 minutes of real time, and they haven't made a sub yet. Let's keep that in mind come the fourth quarter, or OT if it goes there, regarding fatigue.
Which is just remarkable, isn't it? I mean, fitness plays a big part.
Sure does.
In any basketball game. As a Bulgent for 3, that's a massive play.
That's massive.
He sinks it, and again, you mentioned it, play of your first quarter, and I can't see why anyone could opt against that.
Oh, look, it's coming out of his hand. And look, that's another uncontested 3 we've seen from Manly.
It's great, and you'd have to say that the imports for Newcastle aren't finding their feet that easily.
No.
This pitcher goes all the way for a simple layup, and defensively, it's not ideal.
It's like there's breakdowns. Let's be honest. It looks like Newcastle simply are not communicating or unwilling to communicate. Very interesting.
Easy as that, as Foy takes it hard to the rack. And they need someone like Jacob Foy to step up. Believe it or not, in the youth league competition, he's 6'4", he plays as a big. Scored 20 points this morning as a big man. I think he was playing power forward at the time. 20 points in this, he's a guard. I mean, someone that can be that versatile is impressive.
You know what? To be successful in basketball these days, you need to be a Swiss Army knife. You know, you need to be a Swiss Army knife. You look at it, Ben Simmons. You know, Ben Simmons is a Mr. Do Everything, and the expectation now as kids come through the junior pathway. Back in my day, it was if you're over 6'4" and under 16, you're big and you're stuck to being a big. If you don't grow anymore and all you can do is rebound and post up, well, that's the end of your game. These days, not the case. Everyone's encouraged, every coach is encouraged, and I say it again, to create Swiss Army knives, you know.
And I love that term.
Yeah.
It's a great term. Tom Finlay alongside me. My name's Keane Kramer. Action galore.
Make apologies there. Lockie Jackson actually started that quarter here for Newcastle. They did make one sub.
They did. It's underneath it. Goes the tall man in Kyle Painter. And he's someone that you love to see play basketball because he's tall, he's rangy. It's a good option. Watson tries to work down low on Abe. I like this matchup. Great bit of work. Travel court and...
Keane, this is one of these games that, and I actually laugh because sometimes I try and do it myself. If you don't look at the scoreboard, if you have no vision of the scoreboard, you're saying Manly's up 10. But in real time and real score, Newcastle are winning this game by 3 points. It's just one of those funny games. The momentum, the emotion is with Manly. No one can doubt that. But, you know, just probably the quality and the depth of the players that Newcastle have.
Oh, it's bizarre. It is a bizarre game, basketball. It's almost like when you watch a soccer match and it's a full 90 minutes, but anything can happen. You know, you could be up 1-0, have all the possession, all of a sudden lose the game. It's that sort of thing. Is one last play. Will Thornton take it himself? We'll skip it out to Foy.
Long.
Left elbow extended too long. And here comes Manly. Cale Bolgen from half court. Just misses. 23 points to 20. Newcastle lead Manly.
Wow.
What a first quarter of action, Dom Finlay.
Oh, mate, it's a degustation of basketball ahead of us. We've got a 12-course meal in basketball terms. We have got players that are waiting to come on. I actually just noticed then you've got Thornton running the point. I really like that. You know, okay, we didn't get a great shot. We had a game clock issue there with 3 seconds by the time Foy had it in his hands. But I actually really like the idea of if Thornton's not getting enough of the leather, maybe give it to him before they cross half court. He's clearly got the skill set and the experience there. He's running the timeout over here, as you can see. Darren Nichols, an outstanding coach in his own right. But the best part of half of that timeout was Mr. Thornton explaining to his troops how we're going to get about taking advantage of our #1 ranking.
Well, that's the hardest part, trying to get the MVP involved. When you're in a bit of a run, I know they're up by 3, they wouldn't be happy with how they're playing, but it just goes to show that what we're seeing right now is that Manly are somewhat well on top. They'd be very happy with how they're going. Let's get onto the stats, Dom, and what can you tell us?
Well, there's a couple of interesting ones. You know, Thornton is 1 of 1 from the 3-point line. We know he can shoot the ball, but you know your imports only shot 4 field goals for the game. You know, in a quarter, you'd want those numbers to be much higher. You know, Bolgen's 4 of 5. He's 80% from the field. He's 2 of 2 from the 3-point line for a guy that you wouldn't necessarily would be the case. What else have we got? Some interesting stuff here. Look, for me, it was very much a feel yourself out quarter. You know, Thornton had 4 turnovers in that game. You know, that I don't know whether that's because the times that he is getting the ball, it's short of time or too much pressure. Maybe that's a directive from Nate Kerwin, from the Manly coach, a directive to get that done. Who knows?
And it's quite bizarre to see as well, because Thornton's not that type of player where you're going to see 4 turnovers too often.
No.
In a match, maybe, not in a quarter. Abe Bolgen will fill it up. No, he won't. He'll go short. Hustle play by Kyle Painter. And again, that's the type of player he is.
Yeah.
That's what he can bring. As 7 seconds to go on the clock. Abe to pitcher in the corner. Fall short. Underneath is Cale, his brother. Airball from the corner, but these offensive rebounds are killing Newcastle.
Oh, it's just it blows my mind that such a well-drilled team like Newcastle is finding themselves stuck under the rim. I don't know whether it's because Manly are shooting a significant amount of threes and they're just simply out of position, but another thing to well and truly keep our eye on and see if it's going to make a difference down the stretch.
That's right. It's all about boxing out. The simple things you learn when you play junior basketball.
So true.
Box out, box out, box out. As Thornton will go himself. They're doing a really good job, Manly, by getting out to him because he's got a dangerous three-point percentage. We saw him in the warm-up. I think he hit about 10 from 10 almost. I think it was 10 from 12, which is just simply remarkable.
I'd love to say I remember those days, but I never had those days. So hard to remember something that didn't exist.
We'll say maybe from inside the key. That was your best option.
There we go. Benny Hawksley, hands off there. Bank. Nope.
Thornton will launch it, and we tend to see that. Thornton chances his arm a lot, and that is right, because sometimes it does pay off, as we see Watson coming on. Played in Spain, played in Germany, and he brings his talents to Newcastle in this Waratah League. So,
well, mate, a stat line of 27 a game, 14 rebounds a game, 3 assists, had a clip of just over 40%. As a coach, I don't mind that shot. That's 11 seconds to go on the shot clock. Uncontested 3, probably a step beyond his normal range. You don't really mind it necessarily. I would like to see a little on-ball action for Thornton. Benny Hawksley, this will be an interesting movie. Great athlete in his own right. Oh my goodness, Sharif Watson with his lips on the ring. Wow, that was athletic.
He goes up high. There's been some amazing... There's been some great vision of him dunking in a few matches this year on YouTube. Pitcher, we can't let him shoot some threes. They're lucky Newcastle that he missed
Very lucky. That's the perfect word for that scenario. 2 shot fakes and he had an open look at it. Another open look.
He had a smile. You'd think that would go in, and it does. Yeah. He knew it from as soon as it left his hands. And pitcher, well, Newcastle have to lock down pitcher, and then they've got to lock down a few other players on this team, but he's looking very good. It's a good source for Manly.
Wow.
Boy from the corner himself, back at you, Manly.
It's a shootout. It's an old Western shootout.
Which is great. That's what we come to see. High percentages from the corner. It's the hardest place to shoot, but these guys make it look easy. It's wide now. Manly, 3 points down. Painter nails it.
Probably not a shot that I'd necessarily scout him for, but that release, the confidence, clearly a guy who's got the ability to shoot the ball. That's a dumb foul by Dan. But then again, probably mismatched physically under there with Benny Hawksley. So probably in that situation, not a bad foul to give away.
And earlier today we saw Sutherland absolutely polish off Hornsby. Shiloh Hill.
Oh my goodness.
Scored 35 points. Chelsea Schweiz with 35 points as well. 70 points between the two of them.
Out of the 99.
That is just something else.
Oh mate, it was something to see. And at a high clip too.
Oh, it was great. As Foy again from the corner had his hands up in the air. Sharif Watson kicks it out to Thornton. Stands his ground, misses the shot. Sharif Watson is everywhere this evening.
He's earning his pudding, that's for sure, you know.
Boy misses it. Underneath goes Abe, and I tell you what, if Manly let them do that, something's got to give.
Yep. Oh, how about the pin?
Foul with 2 to come. They're checking if it's goaltending.
No, I don't think it was anywhere near. I think he got to the ball well before the ball got to the glass. Referees getting together here. Yeah, no, they made the right decision.
You'd have to think so.
Yep.
They're checking it. 2 to come, so it wasn't.
No.
Nate Cohen's not sure about it. But
He's sure about it. He had the perfect line. Out of anyone in the entire gym that had the right vision, Nate was in line with it. He's asking the question just as a hope and a Honda. He knows exactly what the call was.
As a coach, you do chance your arm a little bit.
Oh my goodness. The bow you get to string is much longer as a coach than a player. Obviously, your heart rate's normally a lot more settled than you would be if you're on court.
That's right. As a lovely feed underneath Hawksley straight away to Watson, and he has been cold. There's no shortage of saying anything like that. You know, we expect so much more for someone like him, but credit to Manly. Doing a good job containing what they see.
I'm glad you said that. It's credit to Manly. You know, it's all we can sit here all day, and the guys in the stands can sit here and at home watching and say, "Oh, he's just having a bad game." Sometimes the defensive rotations have just done the job. You make someone uncomfortable, imbalanced. You know, maybe a little different to the way that player's had to play before. Finals, people, you know, approach it differently, but Manly have come out and done a wonderful job on both of the imports, to be fair.
Well, they have. They really have. A substitution on the floor. Jacob Doricott comes on, Jacob Foy off. And let me tell you, this kid can seriously play. He's a spark. He's a breath of fresh air. He's quick. He's left-handed, which I do like to see, because we don't see enough of them. 26 apiece. 6.5 to go.
look, quality players like Thornton, you actually want to keep away from the free throw line. Sometimes that's easier said than done, but every single time he sees the ball go through the rim, it's just going to add to his confidence. The guy's dropping 27 points a game at 43%. You know he can score. So I think that they need to reassess how they're going to approach guarding him if they're just going to let him go there and warm his confidence up.
Just always struggles if you can't contain him. As soon as he gets ready for it, I like this mismatch. Stevie Blaze underneath, taps it back in. Again, if they can't afford that, Newcastle.
No. Again, it's these old boards. I don't want to say that every single one of those offensive boards has been luck, because Manly are playing really tough underneath that rim.
They are. Timeout on the floor for Newcastle. 6 minutes to go, 28-all. We're in for an absolute barnstormer. Early stages. Dom, let's go straight to you for a sponsorship update.
Absolutely. Thanks, Keen. Spalding, been around for a million years. A wonderful basketball. They're the lead ball in New South Wales. They're the official ball partner to Basketball New South Wales and, more importantly, to the Waratah League. That's the ball you'll see on all the live streaming throughout the weekend. Wonderful basketball to play with, and I know since they made the changeover, all the players and coaches have really appreciated the change, so it's been great. Young Paulie Brotherson just rolling in, an absolute superstar of the league. Hills, of course, playing in the next game at 7 p.m. in the second versus third playoff.
What about the relaxed face? I mean, it just says it all. He's been playing well all year. It's one of the best seasons he's probably had in the Waratah League.
Well, mate, I could be wrong here. It's either his first or second full season since not committing to playing over professionally in Germany. So when you get a guy of that calibre commit an entire season, it's going to bear fruit. And, I mean, probably up there with one of the nicest people I've ever met in my entire life. The easiest person I've ever coached, and I've coached my fair share of people and players, and from a buy-in perspective, he's just second to none.
But how many players in this Hills team coming up have you coached? I'd imagine a fair few.
My goodness. Probably the large majority, really. Only the guys who have just been added this season are guys who I haven't actually had a chance to coach. Hills have always had a great culture regarding that. A lot of the clubs do. A lot of the clubs have a way of maintaining and retaining the players they've got. It's so lovely seeing some of these guys who I've known as juniors at all the clubs, players men now and women. Like their ability to go out there and play high-level basketball is really, really impressive.
To have. As Watson down low, these early doubles, they're really putting pressure on Newcastle, and that's what Coach Kerwin prides himself on. It's really getting his players ready and primed defensively.
Yeah, it looks like it's a specific directive to do that. Anything below the mid-block down to the baseline, it looks like there's an early double.
As Watson switch three from the corner. He'd be proud of that. The Newcastle fans stand. They're getting ready for it. I mean, you got to sniff something out soon. Will Sharif Watson turn it up?
I think so. There's too much class there. That's a defensive breakdown.
Spalding finds himself in the corner open, and here comes Thornton.
See, this is where I think he's best. Look at this control. I might have put mockers on him slightly there. Interesting no call. And that's probably where he's being a little bit shifted off where he would normally like to play. It's a physical game. I mean, the referees have actually done a good job of letting both teams play. The coaches don't seem that happy about it. You can see that they've been quite vocal about their distaste for the non-calls, but I think players like that. Players like to know that they can contest the situation. That was a funny one, considering what I was just talking about. That was just a roll to the rim,
It's a daunting task when Thornton has the ball and he's taking it up, because it's what you're thinking. It's how to contain it. It's how to deal with the situation. That's the hardest part. As Hawksley loses the ball, he dies for it.
That's what he's known for.
Playing hard basketball.
Thornton here.
Thornton, well, why not just dribble around, put it behind the back?
That's an interesting one. One of your premier rebounders is on trail, and you get it up before he even gets a chance to contest it. I'm not here questioning a Michigan State college player about his decision-making, but interesting one. Just being slightly short-handed. Wow, that was a strong rebound, and he really needed to get it because Bolgen was away.
It's fantastic take. The hesitation, going strong to the basket. But you can't question it, as you said. You've got the ball in your hands, you're going to dribble. Well, I'm just going to put it up and see what happens when you've averaged as many points as he's done throughout the year. But there was no one there to read them. But I don't know if that matters too much in that situation. Do you trust him? Absolutely.
You trust him. You hope that he's got his radar on. He knows where the other 9 players on the court are. You know where the referees are too, because to give your team a chance to contest the rebound, you want to make sure they're in position. So, again, the guy is all class. I mean, he's up there with some of the better imports I've seen. Unassuming at best. You know, he's not someone from afar that you'd necessarily think is going to drop 27 in a league that's this tough. But he's got him on the board, you know, and he's the reason right now probably that they've got a 2-point lead with just under 4 minutes 10 seconds to go in the second quarter.
He's that type of nitty-gritty player any team would want. Tom, you've been in the league for a while. You've been involved with the league. Obviously, you've taken a step back. But out of some of the imports you've seen in this competition, can you give us a top 3?
Oh, top 3.
Stevie White.
Wow, look at that play.
Takes it back. Winds back the clock.
That was incredible. A top 3. The answer's different depending on what they did for the club. So they were just flat-out basketballers who have come here and made a difference and been able to get their team straight to the finals. Look, the best point guard I've ever seen play in this competition was a guy called Rod Proctor. Ended up being a bit of a journeyman, but when he came out here, mate, he's as fast as Flint. You know, I mean, you've never seen anyone get up and down the court with a ball in his hand than he. Probably the next bloke I'd have to mention would have to be another bloke called Delmas Green. Delmas Green in his early years, you know, he came here and played for Wagga and then ended up being part of the furniture here at Hills. But that's another great steal. If they don't get a score here, Dan... Look, Sharif Watson, man, has just earned his team not only 2 points by not allowing Pitcher there to score, but what that does emotionally is enormous. Look, Coach Nichols is pretty annoyed at what happened here at the half court, but you bet your bottom dollar he's going to give a good butt tap here to Sharif for getting that 2 points back.
Well, it's intimidating, isn't it? When you've got a guy who can fly through the air, it would not surprise me if I've seen videos of Zion Williamson throughout the week dunking from the free throw line. He could probably go close, so Pitcher didn't want to be on the poster. No doubting that. Or be on the highlight reel for Newcastle for years to come. So... Cool. Time out, 3 minutes to go in the first half. 33 points to 32. Newcastle leading Manly, and they're not happy about it, even though they are up.
They're not. I'm interested to see whether or not they go a little deeper in the bench here to keep up that early rotation defensively that Manly are trying to achieve. That takes a lot of energy. If you're trying to create a double team in a low block, that's not just those two committing to that rotation. The 3 other players have to rotate, you know, and that takes a lot of. It's an emotional toll, it's a physical toll because everyone is rotating. So whilst I'm an enormous fan of what Nate's trying to do, I don't think you can maintain it against a quality side like Newcastle because they'll just continue to find that open man. They're not shooting the ball fantastically well from the perimeter, but you just can't make assumptions with that much depth on the opposition's team.
Well, it just seems like when they put one person on, they take another person off. It doesn't even matter because they're just full of depth. This
country basketball, mate. I mean, it's all about depth.
It is.
And country basketball was well represented this weekend. Shoalhaven, Tamworth, some great teams that were here playing earlier on.
And as you said, it's so exciting to see, and they drive the long haul. A lot of fans, everyone. Another turnover by Foy. Here comes White, coast-to-coast layup, and it's really costing the Hunters. Two turnovers in a row.
Look, I realise Jacob Foy is young. You know, I've got shoes that are older than him, and I think fatigue might be playing a part. I know the kid played the best part of 30-odd minutes in the game today. That's a wonderful passer in the youth league game. I just wonder if that plays a part.
Well, you have to say it would because he's playing in a more demanding position, you'd think, playing down low in that youth league game. But in saying that, he's had a bit of a break.
Yeah.
And you do tend to question that because fatigue is a big part, especially when you're playing such a physical, demanding game right now. And we've loved what we've seen because he is a young superstar of our game. Played in the state teams. I mean, he's done it all really at such a young age.
And look, from a crowd, you want to see the best players from the clubs playing on the court. So I've always been an enormous advocate of blooding the kids and the girls that are coming through the program. And I know there are clubs out there that are buoyant because of the willingness of the young boys and the young girls to play up those standards and levels. So, as I said, I'm an advocate of it. It's just, you just wonder, especially on a finals weekend, when there's a chance Jacob could end up playing 3 very serious basketball games in under 24 hours. You know, so
it's a lot. It really is.
Saying that, he's at the free throw line. Beautiful action. Snap of the wrist. He's probably done that a few times already in his young life.
Well, when you're playing in those younger years, that's the first thing you get taught, isn't it? The cookie jar technique.
Yep.
Is that how you used to teach it to your
cookie
kids?
jar? Oh, I was a beef guy.
Beef, yeah.
I do love the fact that basketball has used an enormous amount of food reference to teach their sport.
That's right.
That's a tough putback. Oh, board. Let's have a look here.
Speaking about beef, if you go to the canteen today, you can get these amazing beef burgers. So the timing was right for that dunk. Sharif Watson spins it. Layup is good.
Concur.
Layup is good for Watson, and Newcastle up by 1 again. So nervous. Everyone's on the edge of their seats.
In terms of O-boards, you're looking at 8 to Manly and only 3.
We could see it
we could get
right
up
now.
Here.
Get up, flushes it down. Watson making everyone feel good about their chances in this Hunters team. Yeah,
I tell you what, the Newcastle crowd obviously know something that the other people didn't, because they were already up on their feet before Sharif had a chance to take off there.
When we talk about timing, that's what we're seeing.
Oh, we could have
do it
another
again.
Oh,
yeah, we will. Back-to-back punts. And Watson is absolutely flying.
Both times, defensive effort down this end of the floor. I mean, basically, open layup, open dunk down this end of the floor. That's really interesting. That's the first time we've really seen Newcastle out in trans, and it's boded them with 2 very impressive dunks by the same bloke. But look at this, Darren Nichols. He's up on his knees. He's exciting. Not that I think we could from a sensory point of view, but I'd love to float a mic in there. He's one of the guys I actually used to love to coach against. You knew you were going to be tested technically against a guy that was willing to make changes on the run. That to me is a sign of a good coach. A coach that can come in with a game plan, and then if it goes to hell and high water, make the changes on the run, rather than pointing at players saying, oh, we need to do this. No. You know what, if we're a zone defensive principle team, let's show a willingness to either trap or go into a man, different shapes of zones. Very high IQ man, and Newcastle are very lucky to have him as part of their club.
Well, you'd have to wonder now whether or not Sharif Watson will get going. I mean, if he's not warmed up now, 2 dunks, when will he be warmed up?
Well, I think it's as much, when you're a dunker, it's actually how much your other players feed off that, because energy can be contagious both ways. And he might be ready to go, but he's got to make sure that his remaining teammates are buying into what he's feeling right now.
Well, you saw them get off the bench. He did put the first dunk in, and when he scored the second dunk, well, it's fair to say they literally went on the court. They were that excited, they were over the moon. Off the timeout,
look at that pass.
Will find Bolgen. I mean, it was a lucky pass. Will they finish it? And Manly's done a really good job so far, just stopping the transitioning.
Absolutely. That's
for Newcastle,
really good call.
because I know Watson has had 2 dunks, but something's got to give at times, and they've done a really good job doing that. Skip to the corner. Foy found it brilliantly, and he'll sink the 3.
That's one of those situations where the pass was nearly as good as the shot. It had to be just as accurate. And Foy really, as a left-hander, just loves that left side, curling that shot back in.
Well, we've hardly seen him on the other side of the court, Foy.
Yeah.
You might as well get a tent out, because he'll be sleeping there tonight, I'm sure. If they win. That's if they win. I think all the hotels in Norwest will be celebrating. They'll get a bit more income. I'm sure these fans will stick it out tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way they'll be going home for the long drive. Great feed by Sharif. No look pass to the corner. Look at this movement. It's great to watch. Unfortunately, the last pass let them down. Nichols isn't happy.
He's just saying, shoot the ball. Shoot the ball. You're under the rim uncontested. Sometimes you definitely can find yourselves, and Howe actually finds himself in that situation a lot where his instructions are obviously to distribute the ball, but it's sort of one step forward, two steps back if you over-distribute in a scoring situation.
That's right. With 6 seconds to go, Stevie White wants to do it on himself. Spin move, layup.
Oh, class.
I mean, I'm licking my lips looking at that. That was beautiful. Halftime here at the Hive. 44 points to 40. Newcastle lead Manly, and it has been a first half of almost everything you could ask for in a basketball game.
It sure has. I mean, you've got Thornton there who's nudging up to a double-double with 10 points, 7 rebounds. Although, unfortunately, 6 turnovers. But, look, he halved his turnover ratio in a quarter. You'd expect him to probably finish the game with no more than 8 turnovers with a half a basketball to go. Bolgen's been solid. Look, the offensive glass is probably the story of that half. You've got 3 times the amount of rebounds on the offensive end being achieved by Manly versus Newcastle, 9-3. So in that perspective, you would definitely have to say that there's an opportunity there for Manly to take advantage of that.
Yeah, that's right. So at half-time, we'll come back with that, 1:30 to go. We'll wrap up all the stats, all the action from the first half. 44 points to 40, Newcastle lead Manly. We'll get back to you very soon with everything you need to know. Second half, not too far away.
Cheers.
Welcome back to the Hive. 44 points to 40, Newcastle League Manly. My name is Keane Kramer. Alongside me is Dom Finlay. Dom, just quickly, anything is possible for the rest of this game. We've got one half of basketball left. It's enticing. Everyone's excited. Let's go into the stats quickly before the beginning of the third.
It's been really interesting. Sharif Watson is clearly the most athletic player out there, and it shows in regards to his contesting of the rebounds. Look, he's got an ability out there to probably really make a difference just on the tip backs alone that he's able to get. I'm expecting a little bit more out of Thornton, I've got to be honest. I'm expecting him to finish the game with a mid-20s, close to 30s game, so he's got to pump 15 points a quarter to get their noses ahead. I think it's going to come down to a gritty defensive game. I would be shocked if the game finishes in the 80s. I really would. Yeah, so I think we're going to be talking about it, and both teams should commit to locking down both ends. Newcastle have to address the offensive rebounding issue they're allowing. And at the other end of the floor, let's see if this Manly team stay committed to this double down scenario they've got on both the imports in that low block scenario.
What's unusual, isn't it? I mean, to find a game so low scoring, well, it's all right now, but as you said, you're expecting it to be under the 80-point margin, which is just bizarre. So we'll have to wait and see how this pans out. 9 points in 20 minutes for Austin Thornton. Will the MVP show up and show us what he's worth? We'll have to wait and see. That's how we've got the starting five on for Newcastle. They're moving the ball early. With 8 seconds on the shot clock, it all comes down to the first play of the second half, which is an alley-oop play, and that's what we saw at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know whether that one was necessarily whiteboarded up. That was seeing Sharif deep in the corner on the low block. All right, so Manly are actually playing what looks like a matchup 2-3 off the inbounds.
And that's just a brilliant play from Thornton. Shot fake.
Class.
And it's not even to say that Cooper even fell for that. It was just a quality shot.
Yeah.
And big-time players call for big-time plays. And that's what we saw. From the import from Michigan State. Enjoying his time here in Newcastle, as he should be. Great part of the world.
Sure is.
Winding down the clock.
That is tough as nail, Coops. He'll be 85 and he'll still be able to hit that shot. Uncle Drew of New South Wales basketball.
Kyrie Irving move over. Got someone else is showing us his worth. Going down low on A. Bolgent. Oh, Thornton. Well, he's coming to play. There's no denying that.
Great block, Steph Lasinski. Wow, back down his throat. And back end-to-end trans. Stevie White. Oh, you know what? You feel the barometric pressure has tangibly lifted in the last minute and a half of this quarter alone. You just feel that both teams have now said, right, we know how you're both going to play. Both teams are going to come out with a certain agenda. I'd be surprised if both coaches, given the fact that it was a relatively close first half, are going to make too many dramatic changes, and they're just going to let the players play now.
Which really the 1%ers at the end of the day. That will really get the teams over the line, and we're seeing that now, that whoever comes up with more of them will end up winning this game, because 5 points is nothing in the schemes of things. And that's a deficit at the moment. Stevie White, the veteran. Manly got him and Cooper in the front
court. What a backcourt.
In the backcourt,
wow.
Just great, isn't it? I mean, the composure, the big plays. That's what you're after.
All right, so there's the evidence of the matchup where you had two players running out and the way they switched. That's a wonderful pass. And that's your problem with the matchup zone. If you break down at any stage of the shot clock, you're going to end up giving up an open look in and around the rim, and you saw that right then. Interesting to see whether or not what happens here on a make, whether Manly stay in it.
Well, it's a coach.
So they've gone back to man. They've gone back to man.
Manly go the other end to score. And here come Newcastle. Foul and one, count it. I mean, a big play. Tom had to help me back there because that's just outrageous.
Well, I believe I said it just before we recommence the third quarter. This guy, over 20 games, 18 games, scored 27 and just a tick over 27 points a game. He only had 9 points at the end of the half. Something had to give, and it looks like he's given effort.
We can give him A for effort. We might go B at the moment, see how it goes. We might change it to A in due course, but the way he started the third quarter is something to enjoy for all Hunters fans. Great tackle by Hive.
He was about to put it down. And I don't know whether that was a block or just a mishandle at the rim. Either way, Newcastle had the ball in trans. In the corner for 3. Hayden. Oh! Wow. You know, I wanted to say that was a breakdown on defensive trans, but just really smart decisions by Thornton.
And it really is, isn't it? I mean, that's a tough three-point shot. He went for the banker, went in off the backboard, and I think he's got his own bank now, which call it the Howe Bank.
The Howe Bank.
The Howe Bank. Move over Westpac.
Thornton is just a wonderful leader. I just saw him tipping his fingers to his forehead, speaking to Hayden Howe about the previous defensive trip. You know, that's a leader. Ooh. Oh, Steph, you're not going to get away with that, mate. Not coming from behind.
It's unlucky, but they're cracking down on that, aren't the referees?
Yep.
Reaching in from behind, even if you do get the ball. It's more so for the fact that you've done what you've done.
Look, it was back in 1845 when I played. It was actually, unfortunately, a tendency that I had, and probably something that, rightly so, has been cracked down on, because it's a 1 in 100 chance. Oh, Jacob Foy, well, eat your words, commentator. I'm out here to win the entire weekend.
Sounds about right. Talk about lethargic or fatigue.
Yeah.
It's not the case for Jacob Foy. Bolgen launches the ball, and again, we talked about just how easy it's going to be for Manly if he can start hitting some threes, but he hasn't been that lucky. Staunton takes it hard. I mean, they're getting him in positions where it's just one-on-ones, hard to stop, and he's come to play in this third quarter.
But they're going early. So in the first half, it was 4, 5, 6 pass cycles before he had a touch. That's dribble down, pass to the 45, punch it into the post, and he gets a move. Manly don't have that chance to, obviously, they're trying to engage a double team in that low post. It was clear from the third play of the game. If you get the ball to that position of the floor early enough, defense don't have a chance to set up. You can't execute. Offensive execution is easy to assess because it's miss or make. Defensive execution is harder to assess, and you've really got to understand what both teams are trying to achieve. And I would suggest there that Coach Nichols is probably talking about get the ball there early. He doesn't look like a selfish player. I know it sounds ridiculous, the guy's dropped 27 a game, but I would say at 43%, you're happy enough for a guy to score the ball at that amount of points at that clip if he's still going to be willing to be a distributor. Three assists a game. I think he was just below 2 turnovers a game, so his ratios are more than acceptable.
We're doing pretty well. We'll go quickly to you, Dom, for a bit of a sponsorship update.
Yeah, mate, we've got CSM. They're the official apparel supplier to Basketball New South Wales. I've got an enormous bench crew sitting in front of me who are covering everything you can imagine, and they've all got some lovely polos and some long sleeve jackets, all supplied by CSM, and they look absolutely top notch.
Yeah, they look comfortable, that's for sure. Keep you warm in winter. You'll be alright in summer. Great material. 59-47, Newcastle lead Manly. Just under 7 minutes to go. And it's great. Almost the end of the third quarter. It's action-packed. We've got a big game coming up in the championship, man. Turnover indeed. Norths will be playing Hills, and the contingent of the Hills fans that are going to turn up, as you said, there'll be a line out the door, ticket sales through the roof. We've got even an extra grandstand here just to make sure that everyone's comfortable. So this is just a taste of things to come. Thornton goes behind the back, loses the basketball. He doesn't make too many errors. That's another turnover to add to his stats column. And it's a coach killer when you know that somebody doesn't usually, of his caliber, usually does that. But
that's 7. That's 7 turnovers now. He's 5 over his entire game average already. Look, he's all class. You'd expect, as long as they've got that sort of 7 to 12 point lead, you don't mind him trying to force it every now and again like that. And he knows that's a bad mistake.
He does. He shook his head. He wasn't happy with it.
Well, gee, that's a good seal. Steph spent his life doing this. That's a tough... Oh, interesting Steph didn't shoot that then.
Tough play, but Painter, will he make up for it? Airballs it. 2 plays back. Cooper's going to try and get in front. Morgan with a brilliant take. But Bolgen off the backboard. What a flying block that was. White goes hard, loses it. It's just end-to-end stuff here at the Hive. And, finals time, you've got to leave everything out there. You can't hold anything back. You've got to be tired by the end of it. As the Manly chance started.
I don't feel Josh Morgan from the Newcastle side has been able to insert himself defensively. Obviously, last week got awarded Defensive Player of the Year for the entire season. You're really waiting for him to insert himself. Scoreboard aside, maybe it's one of these sort of smoke and mirrors thing in the games where he's actually making an effect with it. Very difficult from a spectator's point of view to see, but he's an all-class player. He'd be up there with one of the better guys that has been around the league for well over a decade. So.
He truly is, and that's what's so special about him as a player. Someone who can keep up the fine form that he's got. As Watson goes to the line, makes it, cleans up a three-point play, and all of a sudden we've got a blowout.
How did that happen? It's come down to, I think Newcastle have been lucky enough that Manly simply haven't hit their uncontested shots. It's a miss or make league, as many of these leagues are these days, and good. Oh, jeez, that is a fantastic takedown. I have no idea what Coach Nichols from Newcastle is complaining about. That was ball and all.
Ball and all. The Newcastle Knights played earlier today, so he's obviously just watching a little bit of rugby league. One of the more passionate supporter bases in the NRL is the Newcastle Knights. And Zoricott will come off, and it's hard for a youth league player to step up to this division, such a big moment. I know he's a talented player, but I mean, talk to us just a little bit about that step up.
Yeah, it is a big challenge, especially because some of those players who are those hybrid type players, you don't really know in the middle of the season when you're going to be engaged. Some of these guys, depending on their training regimes, are doing 4 nights a week. They're looking at different systems. If the clubs don't have a generic system in place, you're talking about knowing a playbook of both teams. Personnel, you have to, especially in that position on the floor, you have to know who can do what where on both squads. Josh Morgan. What are they? This is interesting. That's an off the ball, odd call, because it really had no effect on the play, but the referee's done a good job of calling it, where Stevie White actually has held down Austin Thornton there to keep him off the glass. Thornton hasn't. Let's have a look at his rebounds. He's got 10 rebounds a game, so he's a threat there. He's at 16 and 10, which halfway through the third quarter, you'd take that as an end-of-game stat, to be perfectly honest. Look, I think Manly are really missing Sam Bresnik and Mitch Cullen. Two guys who unfortunately have season-ending injuries carrying into the finals.
As Cooper will just pull up for a three. I mean, again, you just put your arms out and you know it was coming.
Yep.
You just said Coops and that was it, because he can do that.
Yep.
Facilitator, can shoot the basketball.
Look at that seal. Well, there's that matchup I talked about at the start of the game. Yeah, Thornton's flexing on him. And you know what? Why not? I mean, he's just scored in half of the quarter the same amount he scored in the entire half. That's not good signs for Manly. That's the 4th foul on Stevie White. And that's probably going to change Nate Kerwin's structure on what they're going to do on this early double. Although, you know what, they missed that early double then. Thornton sped straight to the baseline. You would have suggested that the doubles were coming from the free throw line or higher. He spins away from the double. Yeah, that just screams basketball IQ to me. Thornton's acknowledged the way he was going to be played in the first half. I used to hate coaching and playing against guys that were that smart, because it didn't matter what you did in the first half. You know they were going to come out and make an adjustment and make you look stupid. That's 19 points, and at that first half, if you were a spectator with a hot dog in your hand, you'd wonder who this import is.
Well, that's right. And it's just about positioning, getting in there early, and he's capable. We've seen that. Talking about someone who's capable. Pitcher putting the ball on the floor. Bulgin to Bulgin.
Well, he started 2 of 2, and now he's 2 of 5. So when does the well dry up? I would say now. Coops. Ooh, look at that rebound. Wow. Kyle Painter, he's got arms longer than his legs.
Well, he's making a big difference to this Manly team.
He sure is.
The big moments matter, and he steps up and he makes another good play. Hands
on call.
In the passing lane, steals it, and here comes Manly.
Oh, that is a wonderful step back. Probably deserved more there. Great tip back again by your boy. He's just hiding in the shadows there. He's again, unfortunately, had the ball stripped away, but certainly positioned himself well and thoroughly did. No, look.
What a pass from Jacob Boy.
He's even more exciting to watch when the game has gotten harder. He seems to have he's got the mind of a 35-year-old savvy veteran.
I mean,
this is interesting. We've just had a tee yanked. Now, has that gone to coach?
I think it has. It's gone to Nathan Kerwin.
All right. Nate's blowing up, but I can't confirm this because I didn't have eyes on, but I think you'll find it's on the bench as opposed to Nate, but it still means the same thing. Nate's had a quick word to the end of the bench. It may have actually come from someone on the bench. Nate very much regarded as a composed coach, obviously a solid employee there at Basketball New South Wales. This is what I mean. You can't give a classy player like that a free throw. Yes, he's already brimming with confidence.
And it's easy to lose your head sometimes as a coach. And the hardest part is staying composed in a finals match.
Yep, absolutely. Like 70 to 53. Wow.
Well, it's blown out now. As Watson kicks it out, here comes Foy for another big three. Could have been a dagger almost.
Yeah, early call but accurate. Kick again. Oh,
it's fantastic to see. It's Doricott from the corner. Will miss it. Watson underneath it again. Goes hard. And one play for the Hunters. And I can't stress enough how easy it has been for them this quarter to get offensive rebounds and then making them pay.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting way. I have no doubt that Coach Nichols would have addressed it. They would have addressed their rebounding woes, and they've obviously taken not only what they were assessing at the other end of the floor, they've brought it back over here. Because it just, to me, I don't know whether or not the rotations aren't right, whether the ball's just bouncing the right way for Newcastle, which sometimes can happen, but it seems to be just tenfold valuable for them. And they're rolling with a lot of confidence now. It's a 20-point game, Keegan. Could you believe that?
No, you wouldn't believe it in the first half. Manly were just that good. But again, when you're coming first, good things do happen. As you said, the ball has to fall your way, and that's what's happening with Manly at the moment. It's that simple. And they are missing a lot of shots as well on that note.
Boy.
A number of missed shots. But we can safely say that Thornton and Watson will be playing the rest of this third quarter. 2.5 minutes to go. What will Thornton do? Kicks it out to Doricott. Open as you like. Can't hit it. Watson underneath for another rebound. And Manly, well, just how do you solve this issue?
They're running a double at Thornton. Again, I don't know if I'd be leaving Foy open. Honestly, I know he's young. I'm putting Foy up there with equal best out there for the Hunters. He's not as obviously as skilled and experienced as Thornton, but what he's giving Thornton an opportunity to do is give almost 100% guarantee that if you pass out of that double team that's been run at you, I'm going to make a good decision for you.
And he's just so composed,
isn't he?
For a young kid. Oh. I mean, that no-look pass we saw before to Thornton was just lovely to watch. And as a coach, it makes you smile.
Sure does.
And Watson goes himself.
Ooh.
Just misses, but you thought he'd get some air up there. Not to be. Coast to coast goes Bolgen, and one play. Not to be. 2 shots from the charity strife to come. 20-point game, 1.5 minutes to go. You don't want to say that Newcastle has won this game yet, but it's going to take a lot for Manly to get into this.
I think it comes down to making uncontested shots. Manly have the ability. Manly absolutely have the ability to finish this game and finish it strongly from the perimeter. But I think I addressed it earlier. Confidence is contagious. And right now, I would say that the confidence for Manly is drained right out of their pipes.
It's as simple as that.
Go to the live feed and see if we've got any questions out there.
Well, Jared Weeks is watching, so Jared, thanks for tuning in. I know you're excited to join the New Zealand Breakers for the upcoming NBL season.
Yeah, shout out Squeak. I had the unenviable task of coaching against him when he was at school there at Barker, and just an insanely, I don't know what I'm more impressed with, his athleticism or him as a young man. Yeah, just a lovely guy. Good luck with the Breakers this year, mate.
Exactly right.
Speaking of young men.
Jacob Foy from the corner put his arm out. He demanded it. He got it. And he converted. as pitch it back the other end. It's
That's what I'm
amazing
talking
to
about.
see how many three-pointers have
Back to back.
been just nothing but net
Yeah.
this quarter. The shooting accuracy for both these teams tonight has been unbelievable.
Well, it's the Steph Curry effect, right? You know, I remember as a kid, you know, basketball was about the bigs and distributing to the bigs. You know, Steph Curry and alike have come in and really changed the way, even filtered down to this level of basketball, maybe even juniors, even where kids now understand that a three's worth three, a dunk's worth two. You know, we can argue about whatever looks more impressive, but why would you not try and become a better three-point shooter than the other areas of the game? So,
well, that's right, and if that just comes with you, then it's a bonus.
yeah, absolutely.
And for some players, it just naturally does happen. You know, you can shoot the ball, you're quick, you're rangy sometimes, and that's what we're finding.
Jacob Foy, 21 points for the game. You know, his plus minus is at 19. In fact, the plus minus for most of the Newcastle players in that starting lineup is very impressive.
Yeah, and it's great to see the three players who dominated this year are turning it up for Newcastle.
Good call.
And that's what you'd like as a coach. I mean, it's not about everyone chiming in and putting some points on the board, but defensively they've been sound. They changed things up at halftime. 27 seconds to go in the third quarter.
Well, they clean swept the awards, of course, this year with Austin Thornton taking MVP honours. You had Josh Morgan with Defensive Player of the Year honours, and young Jacob Foy with Youth Player of the Year. So I'd like to go back in the annals of Basketball New South Wales to see if that's ever been done before.
Well, that's right. And from what we saw today, earlier on from Jacob Foy, he likes the position on the left for good reason as a left-hand shooter, but it's his percentage that's been the most impressive. And leadership from a young kid, and he's being taught by some of the best players in the business. 1 second to go on the shot clock. Pitcher puts it up.
And you know what? I know it's a 21-point game. I acknowledge that at the end of that. But Manly can get going. Manly can get going. I mean, this game's not finished. Let's not pretend it's done and dusted just because it's 21. Manly let's go back to back to back, hit 9 points. Anything could still happen. Stay on board for us here.
That's right. So we've got a special guest, the coach of the North Spares team, Coach of the Year, Benny Knight. Benny, thanks for joining us. I'm going to put you on. Dom's going to interview you for a quick break at three-quarter time.
BK, my boy, how are you, mate?
Yeah, life's good. It's good to be back to another finals weekend. You know, one of the biggest challenges is getting here. You know,
mate, you're one of those blokes that literally at the start of the season can circle this date in, and you're here. You're meticulous in your preparation. I've known enough players that have played for you. I've certainly had to coach against you. Your preparation is absolutely second to none. You're one of the few coaches that I know do a multitude of game review. You come in prepared for the opposition's 1 through 12, and not only that, your knowledge of your own players. I used to love coaching against you. I love watching you coach. Your ability to know how hard to push you guys, is that something that you learnt as a young age? I know you had a chance to be coached by Gorge. Is that something that perhaps you took a lot from him, or?
Yeah, I was a very late starter. You know, top age 18s was my first year, so the learning curve was huge for me. And I just lucky early on. I got plugged into a lot of good coaches, a lot of good systems, and I left the Kings early on to have an opportunity to play under Brian Gorge, which really, I guess, just taught me a lot more about taking care of your body, the preparation, the sort of squatting guys he had to make it so competitive at training. And I've, had other good teachers along the way too. But a lot of my system and philosophies are built around that hard work, preparation, and being in the best shape you can be. And I've got guys that want to come and work and do the work October, November, December every year to set ourselves up for a March start. And that's a credit to the guys I coach. They keep turning up each year, and now you get the off spin of that of guys coming back from college. He can plug in a lot of juniors, guys like Tolly coming back, the pros. And he's sort of probably going to hang it up now, but it's good that he wants to come back and train with us to make trainings competitive, let alone I've had the ability to be able to suit him up and get him qualified this year, which has been great.
Yeah, and he's obviously going to make an enormous difference for you, not only in this weekend, but come the game on Sunday if you guys get through. And mate, I massive credit to you. I loved watching you as a player at Penrith back in the wild days, and seeing you come through and your athleticism and the way you've always been able to stay in remarkable shape is credit to you. But I love the fact that I can see it actually transferring over to the playing groups that you're always looking after. That to me says the coach believes in what he's selling, which sometimes you can see the coaches out there that aren't transitioning across to pass that information on to the players. But Basketball New South Wales are extremely lucky to have you at this level of basketball, looking after one of the premier clubs in the competition, mate.
I appreciate that. And it's a great role that I enjoy taking because, you know, after being away from Sydney for so long, to be plugged back into with Basketball New South Wales and playing in this competition, you know, you can just see basketball, as we all know, is on the rise. The participation is huge. We got streaming. There's all things starting to happen where there's a lot more mainstream in the game now. So it's a really good time for hoops, and just good to be a part of the growth. And can't play forever, even though I still battle out on a Monday night. It's Keen Crane over here in the Maccabi, but it's just a great time in the sport, I think. And this is a beautiful new stadium, which is
stunning.
Home, and what a place to host it. We've been up in the country, Maitland, a lot for a lot of our recent Final Fours and things. So it's good. It's good to be in the city, and you know, it's a good turnout so far tonight. But I think Hills are going to be good. They're prepared well, you know, and it's going to be a real challenge for us here tonight. And just getting our final prep now. But this one, you know, Newcastle's really sort of stepped up here, haven't they, in the second half?
Yeah, look, the young man with the ball in his hands. This is actually my first chance to see him live. I think he's as impressive as I've seen. He's not someone that you look at immediately and go, this guy's going to drop 30 a game, but he does.
Yep.
He 27.5 points a game. His percentages, his decision making on cue. But you love to play with, and you hate to play against guys like that.
Correct. You know, and you know, we really had a work cut out for us the last time we played him, and him and both imports at Sharif are really, really good. And you know, the coach has done a really good job with Newcastle over the years. And, we'll see if we can get through. And looks like you know, I mean, Manly, they might give it a push. It was getting harder now, being down 24, but. We'll see how it goes. We've got to worry about our game now and try and get a win to get to tomorrow. Yeah,
mate, I have no doubt that you're thoroughly prepared to the nth degree, and I'm really looking forward to the next game, mate.
Should be a good one. Thanks, boys.
Cheers, BK. Thanks, mate. Cheers, mate. Oh, did you get your ring back? We'll keep a lookout.
Thanks, BK. So that was Benny Knight, coach extraordinaire, has a big game coming up against the home court advantage of the Hills Hornets. So it's tough, but we love when athletes and coaches, ex-athletes I should say, current coaches give us their time. And some wise words from Benny Knight. And for good reason, he was Coach of the Year. Sensational, as you mentioned, Dom. You spoke to him about his coaching career to date. It's been great to see his progression.
Don't be surprised to see him sitting on the sidelines, heading an NBL team in the near future.
That's right. You never know. As a big play to Stevie White, over the top from Cooper, but it's a timeout to Manly and Newcastle. They're pretty content.
You'd suggest too little too late from Manly. You know, I'm looking at the quarter by quarters. The first and second quarters was just enough. You know, you had a 3-point lead going into the start of the second quarter by Newcastle. Newcastle then put another extra point on with a 21-20, and it was all about the third quarter. You know, there was a stage there where I think it was 15-2. Yeah, you come out of the sheds with that approach on the Newcastle side of things and the Manly side of things. Very difficult with the calibre of players on the Newcastle team to fight back. And all we've really seen from that point forward is just a gradual momentum shift going closer towards the Hunter side.
Well, when you got your two imports firing, which we've seen in the third quarter, because Sharif Watson and Austin Thornton have really put the Manly Sea Eagles under immense pressure. 25 points for Thornton, 22 for Watson, and
he's gone to 25 already.
16 rebounds for Thornton, and it's happened a click of the finger, hasn't it really?
Look at the spread though. You've got three guys that make up 72 points. You've got Foy with 25, Thornton with 25, and Watson with 22. Like, they're doing the job. The three guys with the awards are doing their job.
That's all you can ask for. Defensively, again, Josh Morgan has been sensational.
He really has.
You know, it's almost like it's been easy for them, especially Foy. I mean, when you play with two guys who can make your job so much easier, it's just great to see. It really is. As the Hunters, well, you think they just wind down the clock each moment they get the basketball in their hands. Down low, Thornton over the top.
Wilson with a trigger from the deep corner. Not a bad shot. There might have actually been some uncalled contact there. Always hard to get a call from there. Almost out of vision. That's a strong finish. It's
Very nice by Painter. Again, Manly, they're still pushing the ball, so they haven't stopped trying, which you can't do. You can't afford to do it.
I don't think you'd ever get that from a Manly side. They've got a culture of winning. They've got a great club culture. A number of really talented kids coming through their junior program. Credit to the coaching staff down there as well. They're a great club. They really are.
Yeah, over the years, we've seen so much success for this team.
Yep.
So it'd be unfortunate to see them struggle. But it's what we like. So Watson over the top. Well, you'd think that was borderline cross-court almost.
They're actually not running a lot of what you would refer to as traditional X's and O sets. They don't actually bring the ball down the floor with the ball in the point guard's hands traditionally a lot, which will be very interesting to see who they end up coming up against in that final, given the fact that I would say at this stage, with just a tick over 7 minutes to go, you'd say that Newcastle are home and hosed, but stranger things have happened. Manly look like they've shifted into a full court or three-quarter court press.
Well, sometimes it doesn't take much, but
no.
As Hayden Howell's got a bit of cramp, he's struggling in the corner. So we'll see how long he's going to be out on the court for. But we've seen how tough he is.
That shot clock violation.
And they're unaware.
And you know what? You know where that comes from, Kian? And we spoke about this at the start of the game. Just that little bit of extra pressure that I was surprised that neither teams were trying to get any sort of backcourt pressure in. As a coach, you obviously want to give the least amount of time for the offense to get the ball around the corners, travelling it east to west to the side of the court. If you were able to find a way to decrease the opportunity to get those shots, you can see here. And you know what? Manly are going to have to spend 5 seconds every set to give themselves any self. You can't burn. I'll tell you what, there's that three-quarter court pressure. I'm a little surprised that it's come on this late.
And it's really all about getting a sniff. And once you get a sniff, that's when things start to change.
Yep.
That's what Manly has at the moment. A few shots, just plugging away at the other team. And if White keeps attacking hard to the basket, you should find themselves in a good position. The veteran of this team, he's carrying them 15 points. That's what he's been averaging all year. So again, he needs a big game for himself and for the rest of the team. And Abe Bolgen's really been struggling from the three-point line, 2 from 8. And
he started 2 of 2. At the start of the game, you're saying, get a hand out. Right, now you're handing that kid the ball at the three-point line. If he's got a taste of it, and that's the hardest thing at the start of the game, if you're rolling, you forget your misses. You seriously do. You're like, but the 4 shots before that, it went in.
That's right. You got to back yourself. Off the head of play.
Great hustle.
We call that a falcon. I don't think he was expecting too much of it. Yeah. It's a timeout for Newcastle. Is indeed 6 minutes 17 to go.
I don't know if Sharif realises this, but when you throw the ball at a teammate's head, at some point of the season, you're buying that guy a beer.
That's right. It's almost like the nudie run. If you don't score a try in league, you're going to go back and do it and run nude.
Shawnee Albert from the St George team, who had a wonderful game today. Good luck on tomorrow's game, mate. I see you're watching on the Facebook live stream.
He's getting behind it. So timeout, 6 minutes to go, 87-69, Newcastle leading Manly. It's somewhat expected, but Dom, let's get straight to the sponsors.
Mate, the Metro League, Junior League is proudly supported by the Sydney Kings, which, I know the majority of people that are part of Sydney basketball are just licking their chops waiting to see this roster that JVG and the rest of the crew have put together this year. I had the fortunate opportunity to talk to one of the guys high up in that program just a few days ago about how exciting it is to see the roster they were able to put together after some shaky years. And even Bogey on the Today Show the other day made mention of the fact that there have been a couple of decisions that were made that perhaps weren't for the best of the club, but this year the group they've put together, my word, I think Drewy Gaze actually said it best. It's as good as a roster as he's ever seen in his time. She's probably nearly 30 years involved in the league, let's be honest.
Well, for good reason, isn't it? I mean, look at the team. As you said, they've formulated such a good roster from head to toe. It's everywhere. Carl Adnam off the bench. Tommy Wilson, another young talent. You just don't know who to put on. For Andrew Gaze, this is basically do or die for him.
As deep as a cut from a sword, mate. That is, I mean, they are going to be spectacular to watch.
You had to see the preseason game the other day with Jerome Randall and both working that high pick.
Oh, my goodness.
It's beautiful to watch. Two players who can seriously play basketball.
Oh, let's be honest, both guys could be still on an NBA roster somewhere, you know.
Well, you'd have to think Jerome Randall was unlucky not to actually make an NBA team because, I mean, what he brings to every team he plays for, it's unbelievable. As Blaze makes 2. So 87-71, it's all happening now as Manly press Newcastle. Struggling to get over half court, and they do so brilliantly. And is it just about winding down the clock, Dom? How would you finish off this game for Newcastle?
It is. It'll be interesting to see whether or not Manly overplay their hand in terms of this press, which forces them into a quick shot, which sometimes can be a flip of a coin. You can say, great, we forced them into a quick shot, but the shot was an uncontested dunk. So it's kind of the lesser of two evils. Right now, I actually don't mind the way Manly are playing.
It's not bad.
Wow. Sloppy.
As Brady wasn't expecting anything to do with that basketball, and Foy will just have to throw it up. That's another shot clock violation for Newcastle. Oh, they're calling it a foul. We'll see how this progresses.
Well, look,
in due course.
Look, the tail of the tape is this: Newcastle had 44 points at the half. They've got 87 points now, and we're only halfway through the fourth quarter. There's been numerous defensive breakdowns, which has allowed Newcastle to shoot an enormous amount of uncontested shots. That's the tail of the tape right there.
And it's hard. You've got to keep your concentration throughout the full 40-minute game of basketball when you're coming up against this Hunters team. I mean, some of them don't even look tired. That's the crazy thing about it, because Manly have been making them work somewhat hard. As they receive the basketball, the fans have been quiet. The Eagles fans are usually the most vocal at the moment. You can hardly hear whispers.
Well, part of the reason you're probably not getting an enormous reaction yet from Newcastle is because in that position of the floor at home, it's a very different environment. There's an open bar, and anyone that's been at a Newcastle game, even though it was an away venue, it's still one of my absolute favourite places to play, especially when you get the W. But the minute that game finishes, you couldn't have a nicer host in the entire competition. I'll say what they want to do and do what they want to do, and the minute that game finishes, you're their best mate.
That's exactly right.
So look, Manly are still trying to up the tempo with that press, but I don't know if they're rolling the dice enough. It's almost like it's a bit of a Clayton's press. You know, it's something, but it's nothing. Hey, look, good decision. 5 seconds to go. You've burnt half a minute off the game clock.
Well, you're waiting for the right moment. It's White almost found it. Even though it went out. Here comes Austin Thornton. He's about to come back onto the court for another stint, and you'd think he'd finish off the last 5 minutes.
I'm not sure why you'd be putting him on. But you're right.
Well, when you're consistent, I mean, they've got to back it up tomorrow if they win. So whether or not it's crucial that he does play, well, that remains to be seen. As Doricott looked to finish it. Great box out by White on Watson, and Watson has been quiet on the rebound front.
You know what he's done? He's done what he needed to do. It's obviously something that Manly have had to be conscious of.
As Brady makes a huge 3 in the schemes of things.
12-point game.
And Kerwin looks somewhat happier because with 4.5 minutes to go...
It's only 12 points.
Which is nothing.
We talked about this at the quarter-time split. Manly have the ability. They have the players
to pull something out of the hat.
Yeah.
And
I was just trying to figure out there what Rich Bye was going to call, because it was really good footwork by the defensive player, but we're in a situation here. That's 5 fouls for Stevie White, and that, unfortunately, is going to have an effect. Now, teams can go two ways here. They understand the importance of Stevie White. The person who subbed in here can step up, or the team can sort of hang their head saying, well, there's our best defender. But let's see. I really hope it's a close finish to this game. It certainly deserves to be after 2 good quarters of basketball.
Yeah, it's end-to-end stuff, and we've got another big game. The home team, Hills, will be taking on Norse for what should be an absolute cracker. And miscommunication of defence leads to a Stevie Blaze layup.
10 points.
Is that 10 points? Well, I mean, surely you'd call a timeout soon if you were Newcastle.
It's this 3-quarter court semi-smoke and mirror zone press that seems to be throwing them a little bit. Newcastle have to be a little bit careful not to get into this clock conservation mode too much. I tell you what, lovely shot, lovely look out of the corner too.
And he's only played 4 minutes, but Wilson's come on and he's been pretty crucial for them. He's been great, but so has this kid.
Wow.
Number 20, 2-0 Brady. And that's 3 big plays.
Very capable basketball family, the Brady family, given a lot to Basketball New South Wales over the years.
And they have. We've hardly seen much of him this game, but when he's come on, geez, he's played 4 minutes. And I think he's already on 8 points.
Shout out to some fans in the Hunter. My wife's up there in the Hunter region, watching online. Enjoy the games, babe.
If they win this game, where do you think all the fans will be flocking to?
Geez, good question. I would say the Hillside. I would say the Hillside would be the place. Proud sponsor of the Hills Hornets.
That's right. Lovely venue.
Lovely venue. Indoor, outdoor.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Nice summer's day. That's where you want to be. Outdoor at the Hillside.
That's lovely. I don't think you'll find, given the seriousness... Oh, we could have some... Oh, who's he throwing that tee to? So we've got a double foul with Steph. Let's make sure we get this right. It's Steph and Jackson.
Flying out of the basket, a big body like Steph.
And then the tech foul was on 34. So Steph Blazinski has found himself in a situation where he's been on one side, earned the team a double foul, which I've never been a big fan of. There is always an initiator and a retaliator. Who do we get? I don't like the idea of the double foul, but it is what it is.
That's right. What can you do? And again, I know what you're trying to say, because when you've got 2 players contesting for position, it's never an easy end result. Something's got to give. And the referees do a great job just controlling the outcome. Either way, 2 minutes 51. These are big free throws for Thornton. And he sinks the first. 1 more to come.
Mate, he has been everything and more people have told me about during the season.
He has.
And that's a big thing, because he had mad raps. He really did. And for him to come out here and impress me the way he has, I now see why Newcastle were happy to have him come on board as an import.
Because he's that type of player. And it's not just what he brings on the court, it's off the court as well. It's a leadership component. Watson to Foy. Step back 3. This is huge.
Wow.
But fall short.
Long tip. There's that O-board.
Well, you got to hand it to them. They're hungry. They play smart here, Newcastle.
That's a foul.
Just like that. Cooper will admit to it. Hand in the air.
Luke Cooper's father was one of Australia's most renowned referees, actually, right up there with... He was heavily involved with FIBA basketball. One of the guys, I think he might have done up well and truly over 250 games, Mel Cooper. So shout out to Mel. Don't know if you've got Facebook, mate, but if you do, what's up? He was a great referee and a great personality, and Luke's a chip off the old block.
And that he is. He's been around for quite some time, and it's amazing to see how fast he still is. Considering he was playing professional ball, 6 years ago?
It would be about that, actually. I'd be interested to see how far ago that was.
Yeah, in the schemes of things, it's quite a long time, but he's still as quick as what he was. So, it's good to see. So we're just waiting for the bench to fix up some interesting mistakes. It's been going on, but we've had no problems with the scoreboard, and that's the most important thing.
Yes and no. For a long time, and I don't feel like I should mention it, but our live stream has it at 89.80, and now it's 91 to 80. So we've got to make sure that you know what, the live stream's actually a minute behind the actual live game.
Yeah. There we go. Trying to keep up to date. And as we said, the hospitality here at this stadium is fantastic. The internet's been great. Cafes, get your hot food, ready for another big game between Hills and Norths. Brady for another huge 3. 4 short. Air ball. He doesn't get too many of those. Boy steps in. I mean, that was a tough move. Euro step around Cooper, who's no easy beat. Great defender. And with 2 minutes to go, the Hunters will feel pretty comfortable.
This I don't really know here. Nate's a wonderful coach. I don't know what more he can do. He's given his team the best possible opportunity to get their lips back around this game, but unfortunately it just hasn't come to fruition.
Well, that's right. So we'll go to a quick sponsorship update.
Absolutely, the official Spalding Waratah League game ball is now available. You can visit the Basketball New South Wales online store at www.bnsw.com.au to purchase yours today. Variety of sizes there. It's wonderful that the young kids get an opportunity to be able to purchase that ball. Mum or dad could buy that ball for them. They can go out there in their backyard or their local court and shoot just like these superstar men and women of this weekend's finals. There's a real excitement about it. I don't know whether it's because it's the first time this club's had a chance to host the finals, or whether or not the level of basketball has just stepped up significantly in the last few years. The staff, you referenced it just before there, Kean. You know, even as you arrive to the venue, you can tell there's a sense of pride about what they have to work with. You know, I have no doubt in my mind that in probably the best part of 20 minutes getting close to the tip-off of the next game, this stands will be packed. Hills have an avid following of local people who really get around their basketball, so congratulations to the club once again for building such a great culture. Yeah,
and it's not far away. What I love most about this facility is that even the court wipers have Hills Hornets on them, which is great. They've got a bit of everything.
Yeah, when it comes to paraphernalia, I think Hills have been able to make contact with someone that's been able to look after them. That's for sure.
Squeeze something out of them. Bolgen to Bolgen. Let's see if the brothers can put something together. An assist back to Abe. He can't quite convert. And underneath it goes Thornton.
Thornton is a beast on the boards. He'll have...
An ankle breaker. He'll go himself. Wowee.
The Newcastle crowd are getting very excited. They know they've got something special. You know, this sort of performance is something that NBL coaches would definitely, they'll end up getting some game tape of this, and they'll look at Austin Thornton as a mid-season replacement. Quite a lot of that happened this year, especially over in Perth. You'll see this type of guy might turn up on the radar as someone that they probably don't have to throw a lot of money at. He's available now. You know, it's like having stock sitting on a shelf. You don't have to wait for it to arrive. It's there, it's ready. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not an NBL program or even a Siebel, even if he was able to find an opportunity to get back down, to get to Victoria and play at that level, which, you know, probably has a little bit more exposure at this stage, but he's all class. I mean, to come out in this game, start slow, let's be honest, and now come out here and he's going to end up going 30 and 20. Like 30 and 20 in a semi-final.
Well, it's so hard to compete with that because you need someone else on the opposition team to go somewhat close to be able to put up those sorts of numbers. As pitcher goes down low, finds himself in the key, can't find the right option. Cooper to Brady. Brady from downtown, air ball, and you'd think this could almost be it with 1 minute 7 seconds remaining, 95 points to 80, but they've been in the hunt most of the game, Manly, and they've got to keep that in mind.
And you know what? I think it was something we raised before. Manly aren't going to give up. There's too much club pride there for a club like Manly to say, you know what, we're down 18 or 16, whatever we got to. Two very well coached teams. I think the imports have probably been, along with Jacob Foy as well, have probably been the difference. Oh, gee, that's a tough play. Again, congratulations to the referees. They let them play. You know, that it's great to see the referees advance with their knowledge at this level of basketball.
That's right. You know, and the sky's the limit as far as that can go. And Sharif Watson will pull it up. Oh, wowie. That's when you know you're feeling it. That's when you know the Hunters have won.
Yep.
And that's when you know the fans are getting right behind them. 98 points to 80, and you know what, a 20-point game, or less now, but as Bolgen goes all the way for a finger roll layup, it doesn't seem to be the case. It looks far closer than that. For what we've seen today from Manly, they should be very proud of themselves. 10 seconds left on the clock. The fans stand up and applaud their side as the Hunters will take their spot in the grand final of the Championship Men's League tomorrow. 98 points to 82. What a moment for Newcastle. And Manly should be super proud. Tom Finlay, as we wrap this up, give us your thoughts on what we just witnessed.
I think the name of the game was depth. I think Coach Nichols was able to make adjustments to what he was doing. I think the troops on the Newcastle side showed their class, especially in the turn of the half. The game was very much in the balance, both from an emotional standpoint and a numerical standpoint. It was a 4-point lead to Newcastle at the half, and then they come out in the third quarter, won the third quarter by 17 points, and then taking care of the fourth quarter by 5. You know, that's an enormous turnaround in a short period of time when you've got the same team playing the same team. You know, Keane, you and I were talking about it. Close your eyes, don't look at the scoreboard. You would have thought Manly actually had the lead in that first half. So congratulations to both teams. Lovely to see the sportsmanship at the end of the game, given the intensity of that game. A lot of handshakes, hugs and butt taps. So a lot of respect between the storied clubs of both the Hunters and the Sea Eagles there.
That's right. So full-time, 98 points to 82, and it was the Foy, Thornton and Watson show. Thornton, 29 points, 19 rebounds. Foy, 27 points. Youngster, and the future's looking bright for him.
That's impressive, isn't it?
Sharif Watson, 25 points as well, 9 rebounds. He was steady. But Stephen White, the veteran, well, hopefully we'll see him back in the Manly colours next season, 18 points. So great work by Manly, great work by Newcastle. They'll be in the final tomorrow against either Hills or Norths, and that game is coming up with Davey Lane, who will take you through all the action, with Dom Finlay, who's been fantastic.
Awesome, thanks, Keane.
He'll do it all once again.
Great
Davey,
opportunity.
feel free to jump on board. The game's not started yet, so we'll get back to you very soon. We'll take a break, and the boys will be back with all the action between Norths and Hills.